Let's get back to the studio here in Westminster now for some analysis. I'm delighted to be joined by the royal commentator and historian Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Rafe, a dark day for royalists, monarchists such as yourself. The former Prince Andrew, often described as Queen Elizabeth, Her Majesty's favourite son, now a fallen, shamed commoner. What are your thoughts on this astonishing fall from grace?
Well, it's a remarkable moment in British history and royal history. You know, it's the first time since 1647 that a royal has been held in custody. That was when King Charles I lost the English Civil War and was seized by Parliament. So not since then have we seen this. And now we have a person born as a Prince of the Blood Royal at this very moment, either in a police interview room or in a police cell with nothing grander than a lavatory and a chair in that room. It's quite remarkable. But it's also, of course, a testament to actually how far we've come, that now we are in a position in this country where we can actually try people without fear or favour. And we've seen the monarchy adapt. The monarchy has understood that the traditional mantra of never complain, never explain, simply isn't fit for purpose in the modern age. And so we've had the king now in two statements, today and previously, saying that his brother is Mr. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. And the use of the term Mr. in the penultimate statement was to show that he is a private citizen who must be able to be treated without fear or favour. But as you say, undeniably, this is going to be damaging to the monarchy. But it's difficult to see what else His Majesty could have done. He has stripped his brother of all honorific appointments, of all titles. He's been banished into Wood Farm in Sandringham. And just think, a few weeks ago, Andrew probably thought he had been over the worst and that he would spend the rest of his time now fading from public gaze, away at Wood Farm, out of scrutiny, and instead he finds himself in the hottest water he's ever been in.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top.
The difference between the Mandelson raid and this is significant because we've seen the modus operandi the same. Multiple police vehicles, multiple police officers. Of course, they'll be combing through evidence, anything, electronic devices, paperwork. That is standard. But it's significant that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor found himself arrested, whereas Peter Mandelson did not. We know they have 24 hours minimum. That gives us until, 8 a.m.-ish tomorrow. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, they could extend that up to 96 hours, which would take us all the way through the weekend. Are you expecting that to happen? Or are you expecting Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor to be released?
Yeah, we're not expecting him to even stay there for the full 24 hours. At some point within the 24-hour period, he is expected to be released on bail. That's standard practice. It's also standard practice not to arrest somebody. It's a standard practice in this situation to actually invite them in for questioning.
Yes.
So it's quite something
It
that he has been arrested and arrested on his birthday. We don't know whether, of course, this is the police trying to do what we often see in America, of what's called the perp walk, to try to bring maximum effect here. And why the decision now, of course, is because either it's evidence that's already in the public domain from the Epstein files, or it's stuff that we haven't actually seen yet in the Epstein files that they've had access to, or it could be because the king has said that the palace is willing to work with authorities on this. Perhaps the police have even been to the palace and had discussions, and on the basis of that information, felt able to actually make this decision.
Live pictures there now, Rafe, from Sandringham. Of course, that's the estate gate there where the police vehicles have been going in or out. Rafe, I think it's worth pausing for thought about the state of the royal family. The Republicans, of course, the lefties, of course, will be licking their lips at what they would see as the beginnings of the downfall of the British monarchy. But Rafe, the king did sever those ties. The damage limitation was in place early. Do you think the king did all he could have done? Will this go wider than Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor? Will the whole royal family be tainted by this, or will they live on as they always seem to do?
No, the polling shows there hasn't been a huge plummet in support for the monarchy. Yes, of course, this has not been ideal. If the Andrew situation hadn't arisen, the monarchy standing would, of course, be finer. But I think, of course, people understand the king has done all that he could do in the situation. He stripped him of all his titles. He's still Duke of York, yes, but that's only because Parliament can only take that away from him. It's hard to see what else he could have done. And I suppose there would be a deal of sympathy for the king, because imagine you have had the longest apprenticeship in history. After a lifetime, you finally become king, and then suddenly you have to deal with your estranged son and his wife, and then you have to deal with your brother in the situation whilst struggling with cancer.
Rafe, it's worth pointing out that I believe you told me the only person who has full royal pardon from the law is the king himself, the monarch of the time. Nevertheless, Prince Andrew, as he was then, would have certainly operated with a feeling of invulnerability, a feeling of they would never come for me, a feeling of arrogance. Perhaps that accelerated his downfall.
Absolutely. Pride comes before a fall. The king is the only person, the sovereign is the only person who is immune from prosecution because the law is enacted and enforced in the king's name. If charges are laid against Andrew, it will be R.V. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. It'll be the king versus his brother. That'll be the battle that will take place. But of course, whilst legally a prince of the blood wouldn't be any different to any private citizen, in practice, of course, they have been treated historically more leniently, and those raise questions for actually the police, because why didn't they go to the Department of Justice in America and ask to see these files on Andrew before the DOJ released them publicly? Because if they had done that, as the Prime Minister should have done before appointing Peter Mandelson, if the Prime Minister and the police had gone to the Americans and asked for those files, we wouldn't have been in this situation. Charges could have been laid against Mandelson, and we would have known about Andrew long before this situation arose now.
And the misconduct in public office charge carries a maximum of life in prison. Of course, we don't know any of the details yet. If a charge is made, that will be announced later on, perhaps today. But this marks a significant moment, in a sense, of equity before the law. Sir Keir Starmer saying everybody is equal before the law must take its course, the words of King Charles. A sobering thought, but perhaps that's progress. Everybody now is equal. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor today, a mere commoner in a lonely police cell, just like anybody else.
Yes, although some people may find it quite rich to see the Prime Minister talking about everyone being equal before the law, given the history of two-tier justice and two-tier policing we've seen in this country. But certainly when it comes to the royal family, I think now it is well established that we all are equal before the law. Of course, he is being looked at. The charges may come out in a few weeks on whether he will be charged under public misconduct. It depends on whether being trade envoy is actually seen as being a public office. And when he did the incidents he's accused of doing, was he acting in that capacity, and was he willfully misconducting himself? So there's a very high threshold. But as you say, it carries a penalty of life imprisonment potentially at the maximum level. But he's also being investigated potentially for breaching the Official Secrets Act, which comes with a 2-year penalty. And it could even be that the National Security Act 23 is invoked here as well, which also carries a life imprisonment. Never mind the fact that the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown is also calling for sex trafficking investigations, over 90 flights on the Lolita Express into the UK. And that, of course, would involve potentially sex trafficking into royal residences.
Rafe, of course, US Congress would like a word with Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, we hear. And it's worth pointing out at this stage, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor denies all charges against him. We've yet to hear any statement, of course. But Rafe, if I could, just to conclude, in your rich and lengthy experience of commentating on the royal families, how dark a day is this?
This is the greatest political crisis and royal crisis in modern history. I said this for a long time. Epstein is bigger than the perfumer scandal of '63, which led to the downfall of the Macmillan government, and is bigger than the abdication crisis of 1936. In fact, it's bigger than both of those things combined. This is a monumental period in royal history, but I'm confident that the royal family will weather the storm and emerge from this as they have emerged from other storms. Whether the same can be said of the government is another matter entirely.
Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, thank you for your company, as ever. It sincerely is a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us today in Westminster. Now, still to come, we'll be getting all the latest